Okay, so scores on the doors, marks out of 10 on how you feel about recruiting. Okay, we're wandering around that middle band with a 6, a 4 and a 5. I'm waiting for someone to shout, Seven! We got a 4. There's a message earlier in a panic, probably 4. Hazel. Yeah, she phoned a friend. Well, WhatsApped a friend. Want to, but don't feel I can reach people. 3. Okay, Catherine, cool. Whilst people are just putting their scores in there, if you've got another question that you'd like us to answer, me, I might drag Zena.
Really, it's an us now. I'll answer anything that Sean can't. How should we do that?
No, please feel free to embellish. Please feel free to put other questions into the chat. What I have done is on the team Facebook event that I had on my page, I asked people to post questions in advance. So I have planned this evening based around those questions that were posted. There are actually 11. Okay, so what I'm really looking forward to this session, because what's been really nice is normally when we do recruiting training, we go, okay, this is where you start with your contacts list and and you do the timeline, and sometimes you might have a training that is a specific part of recruitment. So if you go to the recruiting section on the YouTube channel, on the team YouTube channel, you'll see there are little sound bites of the different stages of recruitment. This isn't that, because actually the questions dot about, and I think actually quite interestingly, some of it is about mindset, some of it is about how you approach a situation or a perspective on a situation. So I really hope it's helpful. What I've done is I've got the question, I've got a short one-liner answer, and then I've got 3 key points that just kind of expand each of those answers. So if I do a screen share now, I've got some slides, because I know it's really helpful, isn't it, sometimes to have visuals of what you're seeing. See that all right? And of course, it's not just my team, it's Xenia's as well. So here we go. First question, start for 10. When do I start earning from my team? So I want this to be participatory. So into the chat, how would you answer that if somebody in your team asked you that question? When would you start earning from your team? Please, please just have the confidence to chuck your answers into the chat. It's really helpful to get our brains working on this and share ideas, because probably in the things that you share in the chat, you'll be embellishing my answers as well anyway, and we'll all benefit from that. Let's have a look. Didn't think you were going to get to go to sleep, Catherine, did you? You've got to sit there and type now. At SCON ? Okay, so that shows a level of hesitation there, Caroline. It'll be good to see what we come up with. When you're SCON or above, when you're an SCON or a SCON, depending on whereabouts in the country you come from, whether you're a SCON or a SCONE. Okay, keep those answers coming, and I'll give you the answer that I put in. When you're a senior consultant, ta-da! You see, you do know the answers. You can all clock off now. You know what you're doing. Go and get on with it. The end. No, okay, we'll carry on a bit longer. Okay, so just to expand that a little bit, to be a senior consultant, that doesn't mean you're old. It means you have recruited at least one person, possibly more, because that's one aspect of the criteria for being a senior consultant. The other aspect of being a senior consultant is you start earning and you become a senior consultant when you have done 100 personal points in one calendar month, and in that same month, your whole team has done 500 team points. That is everybody's team points added together. Now, obviously, you are part of your own team. So the points you do count towards that 500. So let's just run through a couple of scenarios. If I recruit Xenia and I'm only doing 100 points, I'm going to be leaning fairly heavily on Xenia if we're going to be a senior consultant team with just the 2 of us. So actually, it's quite powerful to think I can do as much of that 500 team points myself, so long as Xenia is an active consultant, which you know, I'm sure, is 50 personal points herself. So 100 PP, your own personal sales is the minimum. But we don't want to work to minimums because there's just, you know, that's not where the potential lies. The reality is you can do half of that team points yourself. You could do 450 of those team points yourself. You will start earning when yours and everybody else is in your team add up to 500. Different scenario. I do my 100 pp, I recruit Xenia. Xenia probably is watching what I'm doing and I'm working to minimums. So the mindset of my gently emerging team is we just do kind of what's comfortable and we work a bit to minimums. Not comfortable in a good way, comfortable in a, I'm not really growing myself. I'm not really exploring the potential here. So I'm going to need more people. If she's doing 100 and I'm doing 100, that doesn't add up to 500 in anybody's maths. Xenia then recruits Lorraine, who's the next one down on my screen. And Lorraine only does 50 pp a month. We're still only on 250. Do you see, when you work to the minimums, you're going to need a lot more than one recruit probably to get to your 500 team points. Does anybody know how much you earn and from which level of your business when you're a senior consultant? Go on, take yourselves off mute. Let's chuck in some ideas.
%5.
Well done, Catherine. It is 5%. Do you know who it's from, Catherine?
No, is it the team?
It's actually from everybody you've personally recruited yourself.
Okay.
So in the scenario I was just giving, if actually Lorraine is a super consultant and she does 300 points, I haven't recruited her because Xenia recruited her. So she's actually a level 2 to me. But I wouldn't earn off her even if I qualify as a senior consultant and we've done our 500 points, because I'm only going to you're only earning as a senior consultant from your level 1. So that is the people you've personally recruited yourself. That's a really important distinction. But what I want you to do is take the bigger picture view, because as you begin to get going, I think that's the biggest investment of your learning curve. And it's the time when you get the least return on that investment. But the bigger picture view is you want a recruiting culture in your team. So to carry on that analogy, if I recruit Xenia, I want to encourage Xenia to start recruiting straight away. And we're going to touch on this a bit later, because I can then get on recruiting and she gets on recruiting. And then Lorraine has joined a team where, oh, this is what we do, we recruit. So she starts recruiting. So I'm already developing in that scenario a level 2 and a level 3, which means that as I go up through the levels of the career plan, I see a big hike in my pay. It's really nice to be thinking, I can't wait to earn off that level that's been there for a few months now. And you feel like you're really stepping up into the next level. Does anybody have any questions on that? Feel free to unmute. Last little point to note is that your team are likely to copy what you do. So that applies to minimums, but it also applies to engagement with staff. It applies to watching you juggle other stuff around your job. With Niljard, it is, you know, very, very normal that most people who join have other stuff that take their time and attention. There aren't many people for whom it is the sole focus of their lives. And that's okay. The whole point is that it's flexible. It's one of the big reasons that people join. Any questions before we move on to the second question, or any comments to make or anything to add from those of you who've been there at this level before? Xenia, do you want to add anything in? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I just think it's good to remember that you have to qualify as a senior consultant in 1 month to actually get the title. And then once you've got the title, then you start earning from it. Brilliant. I love that. So you actually then, when you reach those same criteria the following month, that's where you start earning. So there's a stepping up month qualifying period, and then the next month is the earnings start to come in. Absolutely right.
And, you know, let's face it, guys, if you're going to work towards senior consultant level, you want to stay there and keep maintaining it and keep growing. So think of it as a rite of passage, that qualification month. That's a month to celebrate. Thanks.
You can drop back to consultant for 1 month. Is it up to 3 months? You can still be paid at a senior consultant level, even if you drop back to consultant for 1 month?
Yeah, nearly, Sue. You basically can keep your title, but if you don't do the 500 TP or the 100 PP or both, you would keep your title, but you wouldn't be paid as a senior consultant.
And you'd also have to have the 50 from your line 1.
Yeah, one of them, at least one of them has got to be an active consultant with 50 PP. So the maximum you can do of that 500 is 450, with one person doing 50 PP on their own.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That's all right. Any other comments or questions, guys? No. Okay. Right. Here's another one for you. Aren't I too new to recruit? I don't think I know enough myself. So into the chat, what would your answer to that be if somebody in your team said that to you? No, you can recruit as soon as you join and learn the ropes together. Okay. Learn together. No, you can learn together. No, you're not. I started not knowing. I presume you mean anything there on the end of that, Sue. That's good. I would ask my leader for support. If you were new, yes, perfect, Catherine. No, we can all learn together. Fab to have a buddy to bounce off. Fantastic. I think you guys know the answer. So I put the answer as now is always the best time. So if you're not brand new and you haven't started recruiting yet, now's the time to do it. If you are brand new, now's the time to do it. And I just put down a few 3 pointers to help answer this question. You know, if it's about knowing enough, when will you ever know enough? We are all always learning. So actually, when you don't know anything and they don't know anything, like somebody said in the chat, it's the best time to rub along together. Another perspective. If you learn together, that means that you're likely to come across different things in downloads. You're going to come across different events that are going on or training resources. You'll just get different perspective and you learn help each other along the way. Kind of the blind leading the blind, but a slightly more positive aspect of that. And the other thing is that Success Start vouchers are a major way to add to your kit. And whilst you can earn for the sales, and it's great to have those vouchers, there is an unlimited supply of £50 vouchers when you get recruiting and those people get ordering when you're in the first 90 days of your of joining in your Success Start time. And I think I just wanted to say that quite often for those people for whom Success Start was really successful, and they gained lots out of those vouchers, they're quite often pretty good at really selling Success Start to their recruiters. What I'm going to say is if actually you are one of the people, and there are many people who didn't really make the most of those recruiting Success Start vouchers, change that up and make it different for your joiners, your own recruits, because there are lots of consultants who think, oh, I missed out on that. I wish I'd given that more attention, or I wish I'd been told. And as recruiters, we get a bit like parents, we get to take the best bits of the way that we were brought up and change the rest. So don't just accept your own model without thinking, actually, I'd quite like to do some elements of that a different way. No recruiter is perfect. There'd be a terrible role model if they were. So there are likely to be things that will be done differently because it's your way. Go for it, Catherine, you've got your hand up.
Can I just ask if you could just very quickly explain Success Start? It's the first 90 days, and is it everyone they recruit, they get £50 voucher?
Yeah, it's not actually for the person, for actually recruiting the person. It's when they get a £50 voucher when that person orders £100 worth of retail product in their first 30 days.
Okay, so someone that they recruit
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thank you.
That's all right. No, it's fine. And, you know, it's interesting hearing you ask that question, because I think when we're new, there are things like Success Start. There's so much information to take in, and you probably read Success Start as a new joiner. I think as a recruiter, it's really important to go back to things like Success Start and go, hang on, what was that again? Because you're not learning it for yourself for the first time. You're learning it for the first time for someone else. So it's really worth reviewing. Go to the new consultant section and just think, right, what's there? What am I going to point people towards? What was Success Start again? And those kind of resources, definitely worth doing. Does anybody have any other questions about that question or comments to make?
Just a couple of comments, Sian.
Yeah,
one
go for
is
it.
absolutely, when you're saying about Catherine and that question, is actually going back to the new consultant resources and thinking about it as a new consultant in the same way that I would if I think about something as a customer or as a host, just putting yourself in their shoes. And the question about, aren't I too new to recruit? I don't think I know anything. I do reflect back to people and say, well, I was in your shoes many moons ago now, but actually I knew nothing about direct selling, and I've learned an awful lot along the way. So we've all been that new recruit, and we have to start recruiting sometime. And the other thing I do is I challenge them to get the recruiting vouchers. I challenge people, I let them know how many I got, and I challenge them to beat me, and I give them an incentive as a diffuser. If they beat me, they get a diffuser.
Okay, so now the burning question is, how many did you get, Xenia? I know how many I got too.
Okay. Oh, all right. Is this a competition? Okay.
No,
so
not at all. I'm not going to tell you, but go for it.
And the point is, it doesn't matter. I will tell you, the point is, it doesn't matter for anyone else watching this how many I got. I think it's just a challenge. So I got 9.
Fantastic. There you go. I'm not going to tell you how many I got. No, it's fine, because actually the important thing is we both knew how many we got.
Yeah. Yeah.
So isn't that interesting? You know, actually, for people who haven't maximized their own Success Start, to hear Xenia say I got 9, I don't know about you, that makes me think I would want to think, oh wow, I want to do that for my recruits. I want to offer them that same opportunity. And you know, people loving the product and wanting more of it in their house, people wanting to be able to earn money from promoting this product and therefore really wanting to expand their kit, but have limited resource to reinvest back into this business, Success Start vouchers are the answer. Therapists wanting to kit out their therapy room, Success Start vouchers are the answer. Those Success Start vouchers meet so many needs. And what is also great is that right from the beginning, your new joiner starts to feel that sense of success. So in all the things they're learning and coming to terms with and wrestling with, like for Xenia, it was direct selling. What the heck is that about? Actually, if you're feeling successful and you're feeling like you're achieving with some quick wins, you're more likely to keep going with the steep learning curve that you're on and the kind of new culture that you're in. And it's quite a nice story actually to share at this point. When Xenia joined back in 2009, she knew nothing about direct selling, and she didn't. We were in a room together that first summer, and she knew an awful lot about the product. I knew absolutely nothing about the product, and I knew quite a bit about direct selling because I'd come from another brand and I'd teamed myself there. And that's in some ways the perfect example of 2 new joiners just rubbing along together, having a totally different perspective, a totally different skill set, totally different background experiences, and absolutely over the last over a decade, 12 years, to be able to share that experience and draw on each other's strengths and compensate for each other's weaknesses is exactly the kind of picture we're trying to establish here. So let that be a little inspiration for you and your lot. I wonder who will be one of your partners in crime in 12 years' time. Isn't that a nice thought? Okay, third question, answers in the chat. Why do I want to invite my customers onto my team? Surely I'd lose out not having them as a customer. What would you say to that? And please feel free to say, I agree, if that's one of your questions. Better than having someone else recruit them. Very true. If you snooze, you lose. Anything else? Slower on the answers for this one. Tanya, earn more with them as a team member who recruits. Widen the net for customers in your overall team. Share the love. Not sure. Okay, good. Thanks, Helen, for your honesty. That's good. Okay. Keep the answers coming. I'll just show you what I put here. It's about what's the best fit for them. So this isn't about what you want to keep them as. It's not your agenda. Excellence in customer service always puts the customer first. And some people that you have in your contacts and who are your customers will be best staying as customers. Some will want to wander between being a customer and a host. And some, it will be the best fit to join. Let's face it, we all said yes. We thought this was a good idea. And I don't know about you, I'd be slightly resentful if somebody had just tried to keep me as a customer and not offered that. So we're actually only passing on what we were offered as an opportunity to join. So it's not about us, it's about them. And here are a couple of other comments to make. I think it's actually a little bit short-sighted. It's a very common question and it's understandable. However, as been touched on in the chat, there is a long-term gain of team building, the unlimited potential, yes, of experience and personality and expertise that it brings to your team that you won't have, that your team members will have, but also actually unlimited potential in terms of income, because actually that one person, rather than just being a customer from whom you earn 25%, has a whole contact network of people that as a customer, you don't have access to. You'll have a limited access to them if that person becomes a host, but you're really taking the plug out of the potential of their network if you allow them, invite them to join, and they are able to do with their contacts what you're doing with yours. That also spreads the unlimited potential of the mission, because if our mission is summarized in the one-liner of changing the world one blue bottle at a time, they're going to be able to reach people as a consultant that you don't have in your sphere of influence. Second point, re-emphasizing what Hazel said, basically, if it's actually the best fit for them to join and you don't offer it, the likelihood is at some point somebody else will. They'll wander into a Christmas fair and there'll be somebody there with a pop-up stall who offers them the chance to open an account. If you're buying the stuff already, why are you not a consultant? Happens all the time. And the question is, how would you feel about that? If you're not fussed about your customer now becoming competition because they're in somebody else's team, then feel free to let it happen. But if actually that makes you feel a little bit sick as a pigeon, then don't rest on your laurels and go back to the answer that I put at the top. It's actually about them. And, you know, I do think people are drawn to a brand like Nealshard Remedies. If it's going to be right for them, if you don't introduce them, somebody else will. It will come round into their vision. Yeah, and as I've just said, they have a whole other circle of contacts that unleashes potential of not just more customers, but more hosts and more joiners. It has a recruiting potential, a sales potential, an onward business potential for that person to feel successful and to be successful in what they're doing. Xenia, additions? Anything to add?
Two thoughts.
Yep.
Carrying on with Hazel's thought process, just fleshing it out a little bit, because it's happening, you know, we've heard the stories all the time. I think from, again, putting yourself in a customer's shoes, particularly, I think if you're a therapist or if that customer sees you as just offering workshops, if you've never spoken to them about joining or don't have any information up, then they might consider that you haven't got an account where people can join you because they don't know any different. So when they do walk into that pop-up fair and the person goes, yeah, sign here, it's not as if they're thinking, oh, I could have joined Hazel, because actually, if we haven't told them, they don't know it's an option. So I think really making sure that that's out there, social media, you know, customer newsletters, that kind of thing.
I have actually had that where people have said, oh, but I don't think she does that. or some phrase like that, which means, no, that's not one of the things that they've put on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And my second thought, sometimes I explain this in a way that, yes, it does feel like I want to earn the 25%, maybe not 5%, which is the kind of overall figures we look at. But actually, once you've done a number of workshops, and if at each of those you've had 8 people and 6 of them are bought, then you've suddenly got multiples of 6 people to give them really good customer service. And you get to the point where you're falling over yourself and you can't give those people good customer service. So actually they might wander off somewhere else. So if you've got a host or a customer who, the best fit for them is to be a consultant, actually they can be giving that good customer service to that group of people. And you go, all right, well, now I've only got one person to look after in my team, rather than the 80 people that were customers.
Yeah, I love that. That's more like scaffolding than loss, isn't it? It's like actually that person now takes responsibility for that little group and they're doing their thing. And that means I can be offering better quality over here. So don't think of it as a loss. Think of it as part of your structure. That's a great way of looking at it. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments to make about that question before we move on? No? Okay, here we go. Next question, answers in the chat. At what level do I start earning significant money? How would you answer that? Some of you looking a bit tired. It's only just gone past. We've got another half hour to go yet. Significant money. These are good questions, aren't they? Juicy. Right, let's have a look. What does that mean to you? How much would make a difference to you? You guys have been brainwashed.
Completely brainwashed. It's like 12 years of how much would make a difference to you right now. Your work is done, Sean.
Oh dear, that's funny. Okay, any other chat comments coming up here? Here we go. Personal bonuses can be juicy depending on the effort you put in. I love that. So not a mathematician then, Caroline. We're not going for measurable sums of money here. We're going for juicy quantities. I like that. Now we've got some titles coming in. Team leader from Catherine and Helen. Okay. Right, I think this is a really good question. Hi, Liz, welcome. Let's see if she's there, good. Right, so here's the answer I put. So you're my potential new joiner. Take yourself back to when you first were considering joining as a consultant. And if you said to me, what level do I start earning significant money? And I replied with, well, how much is significant to you? What would you have said? Just put it into the chat. Because I don't think that's just about significant. I think it's about what people could imagine earning and feeling chuffed about. So what measure would you put on significant? Be really interesting to see each other's, won't it? I'm going to put into the chat as well. Xenia, will you, what you would have said at that point in your life? I'd just become a single parent. I had 3 children who were 12, 8 and 5, and I needed money really fast. But I was completely skint. Oh, there we go. There's Xenia's and mine. Significant as a starter for 10. 40k a year or £500 a month. Oh, there we go. Helen, you've said 400 a month. Okay, close to mine. So different. People's perspectives of this are so different. Caroline, happy for significant on free shopping for you on friends and family orders, and here you are on a recruiting training. I love it. Don't you love the way this business expands for us all? 30k, 1,000 a month, 500 a month. So I think the end result of this, keep them coming so we can see each other's perspectives. Freebies and discount. The answer to significant is such a different one for each individual person. One size fits one. And the key thing is that this person starts to feel successful at the level that they want to hit this. Now, if I was recruiting Xenia, who wants 40,000 a year, I'm obviously going to talk to her about the fact that this business plan is a long-term investment. You build it a bit like a snowball. It gathers momentum and it gathers income as you go. Your steepest learning curve is at the beginning, and so probably your hourly rate is at its lowest when you first start. And I'm sure some of you have got other halves or significant people in your lives chuntering about, well, it doesn't seem to be making you much money. And that'll be for two reasons. For some of you, it's because it's new, and for all of us, probably, it's because we've actually decked out our bathrooms and our dressing tables quite significantly. Yes, guys, the hot news is that's shopping and not working. There is a difference, okay? So if your other half is expecting there to be money in the bank and you've converted it into blue bottles, that's a conversation only the two of you can have. But joking aside, really, this is about what would significant be, and then helping them to see the levels of that. So let's put a few thoughts behind this. You get paid on your on the sales totals of your team, so you and everybody else. So you can actually go ahead and tell somebody that the significant money is when you recruit a massive team. It isn't, because you don't actually earn any money on recruiting people. You earn money on what they do after they've joined. And that goes back to what I was saying in the first question about the minimums, because actually if you're working to the minimums and they're working to their minimums, the sales you're earning from are not very high. If you're learning and growing and developing your own sales and your team vibe is to do the same, then obviously your income is going to go up in that snowball effect that I was talking about. It also depends on how much you sell personally, because the bit you can't control to some extent is what your team do. You can control it a little bit by just keep adding to the numbers, because the more people you've got, the more sales total there is. But you can't actually make anybody else in your team sell more. The bit you absolutely have control over is how much you sell personally. So if you're not earning enough, the easiest way to change that is to do something more about your personal sales and get some input on that from the leaders who are above you, if that's a current frustration or block for you at the moment. It's really worth having some kind of markers along the road. Think of it like when you're doing a long walk and you see those sort of milestones. They're often stone, aren't they, on a pathway if you're on a long trek. Those markers will be conversations to sit and just regroup on how you're doing. Are you happy with the results you're getting? Are there things that are a bit frustrating that you'd quite like to tweak and develop? Have you stopped to celebrate? Do you know, I've done well. There's been a good few months. Just stop every now and again at a marker, sit down on a bench and look back down the path and admire the view. And then think about what you want to change for the next bit of the journey. It's quite a helpful analogy in being self-employed and wielding your own business. And then the other thing I want to say about significant money is what I touched on earlier in one of the questions, is build a recruiting culture, because it grows structure. So if right from the beginning you are recruiting and you're encouraging your new joiners to recruit, anyone else who comes into your team joins a team that are all doing that. You know, anyone joining our team this week and last week has got no doubt on what the clear focuses are. It's Christmas and it's recruiting. Anything to add, Xenia? You're muted.
No, the only thing, no, nothing to add on the question. The only thing I've just done is put a reminder in my phone for the end of the month, just to say to my team, what's been your hooray for the month? Because I think we're very good at writing to-do lists and I'm not good at remembering to congratulate myself on a job well done.
What someone in my team calls the ta-da lists. Ta-da!
As I was saying a to-do list, I thought I need a...
Yeah. It's a ta-da list.
Ta-da, I'm having that.
And, you know, using the community around you, just if you've got somebody who you get on really well with in the community, just say, oh, I just want to do a bit of a yay me. Can I just tell you I was really pleased with the results of that, whatever that is, and just share it. I used to reward myself with products and bars of chocolate and bottles of gin and all sorts of things when I joined. I remember I was desperate for a Soto diffuser, and I absolutely refused to buy myself one until I'd reached whatever target. Funny thing is, I had earned my reward. I can't remember what I had to do to get it. Doesn't matter now. I just thought, I'm not letting myself off the hook until I've, I don't know, got 4 bookings in my diary or reached a certain level of sales or whatever it was. You can set yourself little challenges like that about growth and celebrate your own successes as you go. Any questions on that one? Is it measurable enough? I just want to, whilst you're thinking about that and about to unmute yourself, I just want to add one more thing. I just want to reiterate what I just said about earlier about the learning curve is the steepest when you're starting out on the career plan. So as you begin recruiting, the skills you're learning aren't rocket science. You'll just repeat them and get better and better at them. And it will become just part of what you do unconsciously. You know, like the analogy I always have is learning to whistle. When you learnt to whistle, you probably really concentrated on it, and probably not much sound came out, and your face looked like a picture of concentration because you were consciously trying to move your lips to where they needed to be to get the result. I think recruiting can feel a bit like that when you start. So can good selling skills. And now you might wander down the street or walk through your house and whistle and not even think about what you just did to make that happen. And that's what is called unconscious competence. You just do it, you're competent at it without thinking about it. And recruiting is definitely like that. So the more you practice now, the quicker that unconscious competence will come. I wouldn't like to put a level on which level of the career plan you start earning significant money, because as we've said, significant is different for everybody. You can absolutely earn £400 or £500 a month as a team leader. But it absolutely is true that it depends on how much you sell personally. And obviously, as you go up through the levels of the career plan, the income grows significantly across each of those levels. And, you know, where I sit as a senior ambassador, all I'm going to say is there is no way that I would go back to teaching, which was what I did my degree in. I'm an early years teacher by profession. I earn probably 2 or 3 times every month what a leader, a senior teacher would earn if I'd stayed in that career without all the stress that involves. So, you know, I'm reluctant to say about career levels. All I know is that the work you put in at the beginning absolutely pays off later on, and that increases incrementally as you go.
With that thought, Sian, yeah, with that thought, I think it's, I used to do this sometimes, and I remember Linda did this at conference one year, and it was the moment it stuck with me. And she actually said, you know what, we rarely talk about minimums, but actually if you go across the top of the career plan and look at each title, what the minimum is that you would earn based on the organisational points that you have to have.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you get to regional leader, it's £1,000 a month. When you get to ambassador, it's £2,500 a month. And I know with some of my team that pricked their ears up and they were like, oh, well, I want to be one of those then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the minimum if you're paid as title.
Yeah.
And senior ambassador, the minimum is £5,000 a month.
It's just a different side of the same coin. It's not necessarily that for everyone that's not the only way to earn that sort of money, but it is just a different way of looking at the career plan.
Yeah, and the other thing to say is that the different levels of the career plan are not dependent on whether you have another full-time job, whether you've got small children, whether you have a therapy business to run. There are people at all the levels of the career plan to whom one or more of those criteria would apply. So, you know, it's not about how many hours you can give it. It's about the longevity of focus of attention that you've taken to do the recruiting and the selling and the growing the customer base and the ongoing customer service and just learning and growing and developing yourself in the ways that we've talked about already this evening. Right, there's quite a lot in the chat. Let me just have a check before we move on. Bit different now though, Hazel, yeah.
It's quite a lot about where people have spent their money rather than going in the bank, I feel.
Yes, so more about the shopping than the working. That's okay, so long as you're happy not to have any in the bank. Okay, moving on. What would your answer to this question be? Into the chat. I don't know if I have time to have my own team. How much extra work is involved? Put a good question in there if you're thinking, I don't know, what, that is a good question. And if you've got an answer, stick it in. Let's share perspectives. I think I posted this question. I can't think of an answer. Great, Hazel. I love that. I think it was yours, actually.
And that's why you needed to ask the question, Hazel.
Lovely. Well, hopefully some of the others are typing and you might get some answers. Come on, guys, type faster. Here we go. Work smart, and what you put in, you get out. Pretty good answer, Catherine. Love that. You get out what you put in. Okay, keep them coming. I'll show you my, oh, was that another one coming in? Look back, what would you have liked from your upline? What would you love from your upline? Not much of your own business. Well, you share that knowledge, examples down to the team. Depends on how difficult. Okay, right, so here we go. That's a measurable. A few hours a week, and it can be in small bits. Because actually, if you strip out the time you actually spend supporting team members who want to engage with you, that's really different from the time you spend wandering around team groups on Facebook or scrolling through people's Instagram accounts. That's not really working. That, well, it's kind of networking in its loosest of terms, and it is important, you know, flippancy aside, but it isn't the time that you're allocating to having your own team. I think it's really important to note that actually, whilst you walk that journey one-to-one with someone to get going, there is a whole wealth of support out there for them that isn't based around you. And the sooner you get them being true to their title, what is their title? It's the clues in it, independent consultant. It does not say dependent consultant in our agreement. You know, the more you get them out there, finding out the information for themselves and being independent, the better. And also obviously the message that they can absolutely connect with you and the support structures you have within the team. Other new joiners, wherever, you know, just post within the team group, and within minutes, somebody will answer if they've got a question. So a few things to expand that. Yes, so that our role is to support and not do it for them as independent consultants. We're not having to do the whole journey, we're just pointing them in the right direction. The other thing to say is hopefully you're going to be recruiting in numbers, not just one or two, and not everyone in your team will want individual contact regularly once you've got them started. So you'll probably find that the 80-20 rule applies, and that is that 20% of your team will do 80% of the work. You will have your top 20% who are engaged with you, work with you. So that means if you've got a team of 10, you've probably got 2 who you would say were your superstars. Go on, test the theory. Have a team of 10. Let me know how many you've got in your superstars. You've probably got about 4 or 5 in the middle band who pop up every now and again, have a question, suddenly decide they're going to do some stuff, but probably don't engage on a daily basis with things. Then they might miss stuff, you know, just not quick enough to see it before it's gone. And then you'll have some people who, for whatever reason, bizarre though that is for those of us who are busy business building, they just don't engage. And I know it's amazing that people buy kits and don't get going, but sometimes for very good reasons, life has plan B and it doesn't happen. And sometimes people just don't put the effort in to get going. And that's really normal. So you will have people in your 10 that require no attention at all. And then when there's a big sale or something like that, they'll pop out the woodwork and they'll have forgotten their ID and their password, and probably they'll want some help in putting in their order, and then they'll disappear again. And that has to be okay. So long as everybody is happy doing what they want to do with this, that's great. But I think you could have the perspective that with the team of 10, how am I going to find time for working with 10? Well, you won't need to, for all the reasons that we're listing here. I think also that extra time that you put in when somebody's first joined is a long-term investment. And that comes up in a question we're going to tackle in a minute. The key time for input is when they're brand new, because let's face it, they've just made the decision. That's when the excitement and the energy is the highest. And the more you can invigorate them then, the more likely they are to go on and stay as consultants that succeed at what they want out of this. Anything to add, Xenia?
No, I think it is also, I think it is putting in perspective about how many people are likely to want your attention. And if you get 2 people like yourself out of 10 who have the energy and enthusiasm, that's about normal. Because I think lots of new consultants think everyone that joins should be like them. And I think it's really good to manage those expectations from the beginning so they don't feel like they're failing when not everyone is like them.
Yeah, completely. And just a little tip as well is that sometimes with their infectious enthusiasm, a new joiner will be firing questions and messages at you. It feels like about every 20 minutes they pop up and there's a little notification on your phone. I would suggest that, you know, get some help to kind of position that as and when this comes up. But what you want to do is help to channel that energy into activity and into a set time where you've agreed to speak to each other. And the way that I always say that is you're going to get the best from me if we have a time where I know that we're going to chat about where you're at with your business and answer some of your questions. You won't get the best from me if I'm shooting from the hip in whatever else I'm doing. Feel free not to answer questions straight away if you've got somebody who's pinging your phone the whole time. Quite often they will find the answer for themselves if you just leave it a couple of hours, because they'll probably post on the team group and someone else will answer it. That's great. That's all about growing an independent consultant, but you're not here to be on somebody's beck and call 24/7. It's okay to have some boundaries around that. So it's not so much about the number of hours, it's sometimes about how we manage those hours as well. Any questions around that area? Around that question particularly? Catherine, I just wanted to pick up what you said in the chat was, enjoy building your Neelshad remedies and then it doesn't feel like work. That's absolutely true. And to be honest, if it does start to have some pressure, sometimes that's something that we personally need to adjust in how we're managing things. I've learned so much about how I manage myself and relationships with others through leading a team. It's a really good point of growth. First place to look is in the mirror. You know, have a conversation with yourself and enjoy what you're doing. And if it's slipped from that, just think, right, what do I need to fine tune here? No questions.
Do we have to check back with Hazel to make sure that we've answered her question correctly?
Yeah, Hazel, are you happy with that answer? Where is she? I can't see her. I've only got her.
She's nodding. I can see her.
She's nodding.
I am happy, thank you.
Okay, good. Good.
I think I would find that question difficult to answer because of how much time I put in, and I wouldn't want that to be off-putting to anyone else that was thinking of joining.
Yeah, but as we've said, your tendency is to do the detail thoroughly, and that is a positive and an area that you have to watch.
Yeah.
Somebody else might be saying, do you know, I don't have any contact with my consultants and their team are probably floundering. Yours are never going to be in that position. So actually maybe that in the conversation with yourself in front of the mirror, it is okay. So what am I actually spending my time doing? And am I getting a return on that investment?
Yeah.
And what adjustment do I need to make then so that I can use some of that time for my own goals and developing my business rather than actually just endlessly supplying for something that's giving me little return?
Yeah.
That's what I mean about the conversation in the mirror. So, you know, that's not a conversation about, hang on, slow down and actually give them some input, Hazel, is never going to be a conversation I have with you. Because you're so good at connecting, it just has that other side. You just have to maybe watch a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
refer to point 1, our role is to support, not do it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. There's another question for you. Do I need to have previous experience of managing a team in order to start recruiting my own MYRO team? Come on, you can also all type that fast. Absolutely not, says Hazel. No, 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 coming through with various exclamation marks and capital letters. Fantastic. Guess what my answer was? No. Okay, so to expand that a little bit, you learn lots as you grow a team. You don't have to have previous experience at all. No previous experience needed. But you will look back and think, my goodness me, listen to me. I sound like I know what I'm on about. Because you'll just pick it up as you go. Secondly, you have the support and input of the leaders above you too. So actually you can just concentrate on introducing other people. If that's the best fit for them, bring them in. If a new joiner who knows nothing about how this business runs should start recruiting now, then any of us without previous experience of managing a team are also in the same boat, because the lines of support, the training, the resources are all there. Okay, don't think that needs hovering over too much. Any further questions or comments to add from anybody? No, we've got a few things in the chat. Love the community that comes with this business. Absolutely, so do I. Okay, where do I find people who might be interested in joining or opening an account? How would you answer that one? Everywhere, says Hazel.
She has been indoctrinated.
Agree with Hazel. Frank. Sinatra? Isn't Frank one of those funny things? You know, when I first joined direct selling, I remember thinking Frank must look a bit like a history teacher. So I had a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio above my desk, so that whenever I was working on my Frank list, I had a different visual in my head than my history teacher, because that was very unmotivating. And his Italian cousin Franco, I love it. Anyone you meet. Okay, here's the answer I put. Everywhere. You have been indoctrinated. Okay, so to expand on that, you start with those you know already. Now, you know this, but you're taking in this information for your new recruits. So you're going to be saying to them, let's start by brainstorming all the people you know. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Some of your customers that you gather along the way won't have been in your initial contact list. There'll be people that you meet through other people and through fairs and events and referrals. Some of those customers will want to join. And the third thing I'd say is you will ask specific people, but it's important that you offer it everywhere. So Lorraine, your event that you've got coming up, do you remember we had a conversation about a pitch of this, because you need some new sparkles, don't you? Do you want to just talk a bit about what does the reality of that last point mean in a fair or something like that?
I suppose I've been looking at it two ways. I was looking at my customer list as you suggested, and actually there was one or two people who have stuck out which I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't applied my thinking. But also I'm doing a school event. I haven't done one for a long time, and I used to think it was about sales, which is great to get a few sales, but actually my focus will be on putting together recruitment packs and talking to hopefully some of the parents who come along about some of the flexibility of the role. So I realized I need to shift my focus when I do my next event, really to on recruiting, but also showcasing some of our lovely goods as well, so people get a real picture of what being a consultant is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suggested to Lorraine that she has a whiteboard or something that says could you do with earning some flexible income, or fancy a challenge for yourself or a new thing for yourself around the kids? Something like that, that is just a blatant pitch for mums who are going to be wandering through that school Christmas fair, because that's the scene that she's in. Your pitch to a bunch of people in a holistic fair might be slightly different.
Yeah.
But it's like, actually, that blatant, or think of it like fishing, where you're just chucking a net out, your statement, you're offering it to everyone, and you've got no idea who that's going to catch. But for the people approaching Lorraine's table at that fair, the best fit people might be curious enough to take away a little curiosity pack, an information pack, recruitment pack, call it what you like. And some would prefer to shop for her Christmas gifts, and some might do both. And you never know. But when you ask for specific people, that's a different kind of fishing. So instead of chucking the net out and seeing what you catch, you've got one person in your sight and you're chucking out your line and you're trying to reel that one person in. I think this would be amazing for you, because we were chatting about it in a training and it occurred to me, you and I have never had that conversation. Can we check to see if that would be the best fit for you? That's a different thing than what we've just described at the fair. Any questions or comments? Yeah, go for it, Lorraine.
I joined through 11 years ago, 12 years ago, through somebody having a store at an event I was at. And I knew about Neal's Yard because I used to go and buy the beauty bomb at the shop when I saved up enough money. and so I didn't realise there was an opportunity to join as a consultant. I suppose it's quite new in those days. And I didn't even have to take away a pack. I'd sort of joined by the next morning. So you just never know who's coming past your store.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of 11-year-old journeys stories tonight, haven't we? But who's your Lorraine at that Christmas school event? You know, you never know who's going to be with you for the next decade or so. And that's true for all of us. I love driving to events and thinking, I wonder who I'm going to meet tonight. You know, we're often dredging the same group of people. Get yourself out into places where you think, wonder who I'm going to meet. My new best friend might be out there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Xenia, anything to add? No.
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Right.
No, it's just everywhere.
I've lost track of how many questions we've got. Is anyone being organised and numbering them? That'd be a no. Okay, here's the next one then. It might be the last, who knows? I feel awkward asking people about joining. How do I start a conversation about it without seeming pushy or salesy? What would you say to that?
Caroline says we're on question number 7.
It's 7, is it, Caroline? Thank you. Right, we better speed up. Go on.
I put this question out there as well. And the reason I put it out there is because it was one of my main concerns when I first started thinking about recruiting in it, and it just made me feel really awkward and uncomfortable. And since I've reframed it and sort of have started to think about it as offering the opportunity, it's made it a lot easier for me to put that across.
Yeah, I think it's a really understandable one, and I think it's true for most people who join Neal's Yard, because actually pushy and salesy doesn't work with our brand. It's just not congruent, is it, with our products? Okay, so the answer I put in here is by making it about them. So actually, in a good sales transaction, the person will make it about you and what your choices are, what you're looking for. They'll ask questions to glean what sort of thing, you know, you're wanting, and then make suggestions and give you choices. And that's the vibe you want to create in this conversation. So 3 pointers: ask lots of questions so that you can find out what they want, and that you're fully equipped with why they're entertaining this idea. You're basically just exploring it together. It's not about persuading or making somebody join. You're not bringing your own agenda. And that's a really difficult balance, because for some of us, we're really keen to recruit. So let's take the recruitment incentives at the moment. You might think, I really want to do all 3 levels of Go for No. But you can only bring your agenda as far as the beginning of a conversation with somebody. And at that point, you have to leave your own agenda at the door. Your agenda you can pick up again afterwards, because if they say no, you've gathered a no for the incentive, and you are in control of how many people you actually start that conversation with. So if they say no, go and find someone else. You can't make them do it. This conversation is all about their dynamic. Secondly, it's about a chat. It's not about persuading. So that conversation is not a download. It's a to and fro where they're speaking at least as much as you are. And that's really difficult if you're very enthusiastic and you tend to overtalk like me. If you are a bit like me, you have to zip it up every now and again and just let the other person speak. So many words. And you've got enough enthusiasm for both of you, and you can bounce them into joining, but they won't know why they did. So rein it in, and even in your body language, potentially just sit back in your chair, slow it down, and just let the conversation happen. Even if they say no, they'll still like you. They'll still be happy for you to be their consultant. They might host for you. You know, it's about thinking about the message that you give out to the other person. Do you sound really stressed? Do you sound like a bit crazed and like you've sold your soul to Neil's Yard? I don't know. Ask yourself those questions. Listen to yourself sometimes, and just temper so that you're keeping the dynamic all about them. I think the third way to stop it being pushy or salesy is to give them choices. Choices are really empowering. So an example of this might be saying to them, you know, would you like to take some information away to read, or do you want to have a chat about it now? Might be something that Lorraine says at that Christmas fair event. Because actually she might be like, oh, join now. But it's not about her, it's about them. So give them the choices and let them be in charge from the beginning. And what that does is it sets up a dynamic of that person working towards being an independent consultant, because right from the beginning, the choice is theirs. Anything to add to that? Liz, this is exactly me. So excited about the product. I want to tell people everything about everything. Right. So if that resonates, Liz, where are you? Can't see you. If that resonates, then, you know, just try it a different way. Because if you're thinking, okay, well, I've bombarded them with information, and they've gone away going, oh, okay, I'll think about it, and then they disappear. It's the conversation with yourself in the mirror, isn't it? Like I was saying earlier.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's on sales as well as recruitment, I think. I just, it's quite good going out with Crystal, because she calms me down when we're working together on an event. She definitely reins me in, because I just want to tell them everything about everything.
That's nice. And actually what you've just said is a really good point too, that actually it's helpful sometimes to work with someone who's a good foil to yourself.
Yeah.
So if you are somebody who's more likely to hide behind your table and hope that somebody else is going to start the conversation, you probably need a little bit of Liz to take with you, you know, because you just copy what each other are doing and think, right, I'm just going to dial up my Liz, or I'm just going to. Hazel was nodding when I said about the hesitation behind the table. Liz, next time you're in that situation, think, Liz, be more Hazel. Hazel, next time you're in that situation, think, be more Liz. Because you know the sides of you that are good and the sides you have to watch. That's all good. We all do that. Right.
And it's constantly practicing as well, I think. So I have had to dial up my Liz when I've been doing events recently, because I did feel a little bit as though I was hanging back, sort of coming out of all of these lockdowns and stuff. It was nerve-wracking, you know, approaching people and talking to them. And I was like, right, come on, let's go. And I'm getting there. But
you certainly are.
And it's the same with the recruiting thing. It's practice. Like Liz said, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, it's amazing. Come and join us. But I'm trying not, that's why I keep on coming back to the recruiting, because I need to hammer this into myself. I need to just take that breath. Like when the lady contacted me today, I need to just stop, take a breath and go, right, remember what Sian says.
So she sent me, what you say to this lady, and I said, you tell me what you're going to say, and I'll tell you what I'd add or alter. Oh, okay. And she was brilliant. You're fine, Hazel. You've just got to believe in yourself.
Because nobody wants to meet a person that's possessed. That's all.
Yes.
And it's completely me as well. I just think you just have to be there at your stall and smile at people, and then you get a feel for who wants to engage and who just wants to run away, because you get plenty of those, don't you? They'll be like,
Yeah.
Why are you even at a fair? For goodness
Yeah, and you say things like, would you like a little bit of hand cream? And they go, oh no, and scurry away like you're about to burn them. You think it's hand cream and it's free. Why would you not want any? But don't say that, it's not good for PR. I just want to just say one more thing about this thing about our own personalities and behaviours, which I think it's quite interesting. It's not just about bouncy or slightly reserved. It's about procrastinate, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, maybe a bit apathetic, versus I completely over deliver and burn myself out. It's all sorts. Yeah, it's all sorts of sides of ourselves. I think as you do the journey of being an independent consultant, the greatest learning curve will be about yourself. You know, just keep checking in with yourself, and let's never be too on it just to have a kind of sober perspective of ourselves every now and again, just a bit of an MOT. What am I completely frying my own head about? What do I need to change up? You know, those kind of things. So give yourself a break and yeah, just change up what needs changing and move on. Don't beat yourself up. Right, next question. How do I approach therapists when I'm not one? What do you say to that?
Wow.
That's the lady I've been speaking to today is actually a therapist, and
you're not one.
And I'm not one. So I think previous to having had some of this recruitment training, I would have been a lot more nervous about that, but I sort of automatically switched my language. I started talking about an account instead of becoming a consultant. And really, she was concerned about using the products in her treatment room and how that would work. And so just started talking to her about that, and was very, you know, honest with her. I'm told, you know, she knows that I'm not a therapist, and but I spoke to her about the therapists in my team and therapists in the wider team on what I've experienced people doing, and she seemed to like that and connect with that, so she was fine with it.
Perfect. Helen's put, just having your product knowledge and direct selling knowledge will win them over. Well, no, it doesn't, Helen. That's the point, because, you know, none of us start with all of that, do we? That's the trouble. Okay, so I said by finding out what they want and meeting that, because therapists aren't some kind of rare, exclusive breed that are different from anybody else we recruit. We're basically saying, how do you want this? If you were to do this, how would this fit into your life? And we're doing that with mums who want flexible income around small children, a la at Lorraine's Christmas event. And we're doing that with a therapist. There's no difference. It's about kind of trying to put yourself into their shoes, like you've just described brilliantly, Hazel, what she wants, and you imagine that, and you just expand the information that they're asking. So a few pointers on this one. Do have a listen to what therapists in the team say and do. So things like Hazel just said, she talked about having an account rather than being a consultant. Sometimes that is what therapists are used to. You have an account with a wholesaler, you have an account with a beauty brand that you've been using previously. It just fits in line with that kind of language. Ask if you need other information, obvious. And as I've said, that same process of exploration is true for them too. So just entertaining the ideas, going around it together and seeing if this will be the best fit for them is all you're doing. There's no magic. Also, just to say, many therapists don't want to do parties, workshops, or they think they don't when they join, and many do. Therapist in itself is such a broad term. What does that mean? Does that mean a hypnotherapist, a kinesiologist, a homeopath, an aromatherapist, a beauty therapist? You know, there are so many ists, aren't there? So actually find out first of all about what kind of therapies they're doing, because if you start banging on about, oh, well, loads of people have the products, you can use them in treatments, and of course they've got beautiful essential oils in them, and you get the aromatherapeutic benefit, blah, 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 and they're reflexologists, only 10% of that is going to be relevant. So again, pause, ask questions, go back, like we said with the previous question, offer excellent customer service just by asking them questions, not being pushy and salesy. Receive lots more information before you give any. Anything to add? Guru Stanbridge. That's
Okay,
a new one.
Guru Stan, yeah. Please don't put me on that level. That's really, I'll fall off that pedestal quite quickly. So therapists, I think it's bearing in mind that a lot of therapists will think they have to retail to their clients, and some of them don't want to. So just making sure that if that comes up as a question, or if they're a bit reticent, you can just, keep that in the back of your head. I'm also laughing to myself about how do I approach therapists? Well, I'm not a therapist and have lots of therapists in the team. I'm also not a mum and I have lots of mums in my team. So you don't have to be an everything to everybody. You just have to ask questions about what they want. And the other thing, oh yes, I'd forgotten it and now it's come back, is don't offer therapists a business opportunity because they've already got a business and it's quite insulting. So I think, very much think about this is adding products for them to be able to use in their treatments and retail if they would like to. And for anyone that's already using a product that's not an organic natural product, it's about widening the treatments that they offer so that they can add organic treatments, natural treatments if they want to, if that's appropriate for who they are. It's not about taking away the other product they're using and chucking all those customers in the bin. It's about encouraging new clients to come. So somebody like myself that's not going to go to a therapist who uses a brand that isn't natural and organic or wouldn't go, actually, they could be looking for people like me as additional clients. Just
brilliant. Thank you. Love that. Lorraine totally agrees with not offering them a business opportunity because they've got one. Good tips. Right. I think this is the penultimate question. Everyone is so busy. If they have a full-time job already, how do I sell it to them that they would be able to do both? So you're all looking too tired to put answers in the chat, but feel free to do so and surprise me. Here's the answer I put. Find their motivator and engage with that. Because actually, I think in the question, what we're doing is assuming that somebody would need to give it lots of time and that they want out of it what would take quite a lot of time put in. So they want a lot of income very quickly, for instance. Now, that may not be the case, especially if they've already got another full-time job. So people join for all sorts of reasons. Their motivator might be, I've got a full-time job, and actually I would love to just start building something at the side that is for me, because I don't want to be staying in this full-time job for forever. I'd quite like to change my lifestyle. So we can make assumptions about income and time allocation that would be wrong to assume. Maybe that person has moved to a new area, they've got a full-time job, but they want to join in order to meet new people. So again, that's not about time allocation, that's about having a social life, isn't it? And how much time they want to put into that alongside their full-time job is up to them. So not assuming the motivator and engage with that. A few other points to expand. Not everyone spends lots of time on this. In fact, most people don't. The vast majority of the consultant base. I don't know about you, but in the consultants I've met, most of them are also very busy and many have full-time jobs and they still said yes. So lots of people are making that work. So that's quite helpful, isn't it? Just to remind ourselves of that perspective. I think sometimes people can use the kind of, oh, I don't know, I'm so busy, I don't know that I'd fit it in, as I'm so busy and I actually don't want to give it time in my head right now. That's a different thing than being too busy to do this. I think it sometimes is a bit of a knockback rather than a reason in itself. And then the third thing is a bit obvious, but actually if they are concerned about the time allocation, just help them to plan accordingly of what they're going to do, what their expectation of what they're going to get out of this against what time they do have. So if somebody's verbalizing, look, I could literally only give this my attention one night a week, but I want this to earn me £2,000 a month from a standing start, what they want and what they're going to put in don't match up. Those are quite extreme examples, but actually just kind of having that conversation about, you can put in very little time. I guess my question is, what do you want to get out of it?
I think at the moment also, with the new catalogue, you're not going to believe I'm saying this, Senior. It can do a lot of the work for you. The fact that you can send out this link that links to your catalogue and then directly to your account, and you can get your customers to share that to other people, that should be a way of being able to spread the word quite well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go back to that old adage of, if you want something done, ask a busy person. Because actually the people who have got full-time jobs and kids and other commitments and hobbies find those hours to fit things in.
Absolutely, they really do.
And have the contact, Senior, is another thing. They're just there, aren't they, all the time? So yeah, so that's a positive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. They're going to have a big group of people, aren't they? Likely, well, not necessarily, but likely to have. I love the ask a busy person. That's true. Right, here's the last question. You've had someone who said yes. What's the next thing you do? Go on, put into the chat a couple of answers to that one. Or just unmute yourself if you can't be bothered to type anymore. I'm hoping that some of you are writing something similar to I dance a jig, or I crack open the bubbles, or something like that.
We have a jig and we have a few
happy
panics.
Jig. There it is, Catherine. We obviously think the same way. Run, says Helen. Panic. Ah, happy dance. I love it. Oh, that's funny. Right. So I wrote, seize the most excited and motivated time, which is now. They've made the decision, and sometimes people take a long time over doing that. But usually there is that sense of, oh, I've done it. Okay, what happens now? That is the place of tentative excitement, perhaps a little bit of nervousness. Seize the moment. So what does that look like? I like to say, how about we have a few things to be getting on with whilst we wait for your kit to come? Because I feel like you get that suspense and the energy, and then you're waiting for the kit, and by the time the kit's arrived, all the doubts have filled their head, and they're kind of perhaps wondering about a few things, or they've gone and wandered off and looked around all of downloads and realised all the stuff they don't know. So what sorts of things would we give them to do? Well, things like brainstorming the people they know is a good place to start, isn't it? Suggesting that you let's have a launch event and I'll help you run it. When should we do that? Sorting out that date, those kind of things. And we will expand this more in the Business Builders Day. Can't string the words together now anymore. Further, but just think, right, what do I want the end result to be? I want this person to start feeling successful. I want this person to start doing some things that get them in the direction of success start levels. I would suggest sending them off to have a look around downloads isn't going to do that. Action on things like frank lists is. Signing them up to 16,482 Facebook groups probably isn't going to do that. It says what we do as consultants is spend hours on social media. So just have a think, what am I giving them as the first few things, and what message does that land? Maybe there are a few tweaks to do that there for some of you who've recruited before. The next thing I'd say is absolutely be directive. Here you go, here's the first thing to do. How long do you want to have to do that before we chat? So I would say to somebody, brainstorm a list of names you know. When you get to about 50, ping me a message and I'll show you what we do with that list. 50? Yeah, honestly, you won't believe how fast you'll write those down. And if your brain empties, which it quite often does, have a look through your phone contacts. Oh, okay, I can do that. And it's interesting, you start to get messages back. So how long would it have taken you if I'd given you that message when you first joined me? Would you have pinged me and 20 minutes later and gone, okay, I've got 50, what would I do now? Or would it have taken you 3 weeks? Because to be honest, it's one of the key things to do, isn't it, to get going? So how long it takes is up to them. But you're already carrying on that transaction of conversation into action. I'll tell you what you need to do, you do it, I give you the next thing to do. It's not quite as blunt as that, but it kind of is. And being directive because they don't know anything. If you leave them to, well, you know, you could do this and you could do this, and, you know, have a think about what you want. Bye, new consultant. because off they'll wander. They don't know how to start, so it's a really good idea to show them. And then continuing your asking questions thing. So ask, I just want to check in, how much time do you want to allocate to this at the moment? At the moment is quite key. Just now, in the next week or two, how much time have you got for this? Because that will help you to gauge the pace and see how hungry they are. Hazel, it took 2 years to write your frank list. I know, darling, but I didn't let you off the hook till you'd done it, did I? And things have taken off since then. So let that be a lesson and a warning to us all. I love it.
She had just had her 4th child. Let her off.
Well, she had, and I didn't recruit her, so that's all right. Any questions or further comments on that one?
Can I just ask, in terms of pitching the Success Start to new recruits, any tips on that? Because again, I feel slightly awkward about doing that. Maybe it's because the ones that I've recruited so far have always not had that hunger.
And maybe that's a little bit chicken and egg, because the energy brought was one of hesitation. So we dial up the Liz, and we say, oh, and I've got to tell you this, I haven't done my job until I've told you this. There is a great incentive program for those people who want to start feeling some success right from early on. You don't have to do any of it, and you can do all of it, or you can do some of it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Now, with this job, you totally choose how much you put in, and what the company do is they give you incentive for getting going, because the company knows that if you get going, then you're likely to stay. So can I tell you a bit about it?
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to hear about that. Good. And off you go.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Send it to them to have a read. Liz, be more Hazel and just ask them, tell them that bit, and then ask them if they're interested. Don't explain all the levels.
I do. You know me.
I've got cameras inside your head. Yeah. Did you see Celia lean forward and zip her lips then? Oh, it's good to laugh at ourselves, isn't it? I think we should have Neilshad Remedies the outtakes. Wouldn't it be so nice to have little video clips of some of the clangers over the years? Love it. Right, I think that was the last question. Yes, it was. Stop
So
sharing.
the clanger that I did was at a leaders meeting once. I said something out loud and Sian said, Xenia, you have to keep the voices in your head. And I'm like, oh, it really did come out, didn't it?
Hashtag no filter.
Yes.
Those of you who are coming on the 8th will know that. It's quite hilarious. So we'll just let that happen. Okay, has it been helpful? Do you feel like it's grown your confidence? So I'm interested now please don't make it up, honestly, just for your own personal reflections, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you feeling at the end of that Q&A? Liz is on a 10. She's going to go and have a little chat with herself in the mirror, and her family are going to think she's lost it. She's finally lost it. She's talking to herself in the mirror. 8, Tanya, great. I need to go back through and see what you all started on, but I know we were on 4s and 5s. That's good. And for those of you who are brand new to this game, maybe your number has only gone up slightly, or you now feel like, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to get this right? If a job is worth doing, it is worth doing badly at first. So just be practicing, just work with the upline leader who's above you, and just keep checking in. You know, like Hazel was saying earlier, I sent Sian the message, this is what I'm thinking of sending her. What do you reckon? Have that discussion, because it's really helpful to feel like someone's holding your hand as you go. It's so worth it. It's one of the best things. And we were saying this morning on the coffee and chat, the privilege of doing the journey with someone and knowing what they've achieved, despite whatever else is going on in life, doing the journey with another person, knowing that they are succeeding because you bothered to rock up and make the effort to support them. You cannot put that on a graph. To me, it is one of the ultimate things that is the heart of our business. and I want you all to get that magic. So it's worth, like you're whistling, feeling a little bit consciously incompetent at the beginning until it just comes, and practice is what makes it perfect. So I hope it's inspired you. Catherine, you've got another question. Go for it.
This might be something that I need to do a bit more on a sort of one-to-one with you or Cressy, but this has been so helpful. Thank you.
Welcome.
And I feel really excited and happy about it all. I think it's just, for me, is just how I actually get myself in front of people. That I suppose up to now, and this is a mindset thing, I've maybe thought, oh, well, if they join, and even if they're just personal shoppers, but I get the whole recruitment culture thing, it's actually people that, you know, would join and then actually would be active and recruit. So I don't know, I think it's for me how I actually reach people. I think if I was given the opportunity, my confidence would build and I'd really enjoy it and love it. And I do feel genuinely excited about that journey. It's just actually having access to people.
Yeah. Okay, so let's have a little chat about it on a call sometime. We can do a Zoom, and just, I think what would be helpful is to kind of know what you've done already, and go from there.
Definitely.
But I think you don't set out looking for people who are going to be active and recruit other people. You set out to find new joiners, and then you grow people.
Yeah.
And some will and some won't, like I said.
It's even just literally having people that, you know, I feel I've got the conversation where it's, you know, not too full on and all of that, but it's even just having access to those people, and that might have been partly lockdown. And again, you know, as I said, it might be more of a one-to-one conversation, but I think that's me the biggest stumbling block.
Okay, right. So what we'll do is ping me a message after this to remind me, because after I've done a training like this at 9:30, my brain fills with porridge and I won't remember tomorrow. So just ping me a message and we'll put something in the diary, and we can either do that, the two of us, or we can bring Cressy in if you want her perspective on it as well.
Okay.
We're all here to help.
Thank you.
And sometimes it's just helpful, isn't it, to have a different angle from a different leader.
Definitely.
So use either of us to
Definitely.
do that.
It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited about the 8th.
Good. I'm glad. I'm really looking forward to you being there. So guys, we'll stop there unless anyone else has got any burning questions. No, thank you for staying on for that extra time. It definitely took longer than I thought it was going to, but really glad to see the numbers going up. And keep us posted. It'd be really nice to hear of the tricky questions, the bumps in the road, and the successes. All right, have a great night. Sleep well. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.